All right, we're live. What's up, everybody? I'm Mark Scott, and this is my friend Jace.
I'm Jace. I'm glad to be here, Mark. Thanks for inviting me last minute. Or actually, you told me yesterday.
Well, yeah, but this is I'm hoping this is going to be the first of like open office hours, right? Like Q&A. Anybody wants to come, ask a question, you're more than welcome to. So please, if you're watching now, and you have a question that you want me or Jace to answer, pop it in comments and we'll see it pop up and we'll be able to respond on air. I'll be able to even show it. I can show, here's Jay. So you can pop it up. See there, it even pops up on our stream. So we can discuss, and later on when people watch, they'll know what we're talking about, which is awesome. Dave Karstensen. Hey, Dave, how's it going? Haven't worked with you for a while. I miss you, buddy. Anyway, okay, RPA. Now, Jace, you and I were talking like 10 minutes before this started, because you really didn't know what RPA was, right?
I just thought it was robotic stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like physically making things move, which I guess it could be that, right? But really, RPA, right? Robotic process automation is just about taking a manual process and automating it. That's it. So the problem with that is we tend to have a lot of manual systems that we can't automate with an API, and sometimes we have to go click buttons and mouse click and make some nasty screen scraping hacks. Well, instead of just doing that without any backing, we now in San Diego release of ServiceNow have RPA. So we can actually run processes out of Flow Designer that could do things like screen scraping or button clicking or anything that's manual that we would need to do ourselves. We can do that. Now, I actually have a little graphic. I'm going to show the graphic real fast here. So the benefits of RPA, right? There's a whole lot that comes out of this. Take it with a grain of salt, right? You got to take it with a grain of salt. There's automating processes that from a screen scraping perspective, that's just not always a great idea. But some of this is what you kind of get out of that. So, improved employee morale. I love that stat. It's like, yeah, if you have to copy and paste this thing every day, it's gonna stink. It really is, and you're just gonna hate it. So employees are gonna love that for you. Productivity, reliability. It's code that's running, so it's awesome. It's just always running and it's always up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You could have it run once a minute if you really wanted to, and it wouldn't ever take a vacation. Consistency, same thing. It's not invasive. So the other thing is really, and let me move myself and Jace here. There's no disruption to the underlying legacy system. So if you've got this old monolithic, COBOL system that it's got a web front end or something, and you want to go touch those buttons, you can do that, which is really awesome.
Is it only for like web front ends?
It's not necessarily for web front ends. Can
you run like a CLI on it?
So with the product that ServiceNow has, I'm not positive on that, right? We're going to dive into that because I haven't actually cracked it open and looked at it.
I haven't either. I'm totally blind.
I know from the other things that I've used. So there's similar products. Yes, there was actually a full like the one that I'd used in the past. It was C# that was done in the back end, right? So you actually write full on code to get this stuff running, right? So click this. Here's the class name that I would pull and all that stuff. I'm sure we're going to eventually get into that. In classic ServiceNow fashion, I'm going to go through the process of installing this first. So it's probably going to take forever. That's why I've got the Q&A session to take up a little bit of time. Chuck, come on. Chuck Tomasi, someone got StreamYard. Yeah, someone got StreamYard. That was me. I saw it on Let's Code Happy Hour. I really, really liked it. And so I decided that I would invest in it. Something like Selenium. Yeah, probably. I mean, I wouldn't say that it is a Selenium replacement because Selenium is a testing tool, right? But from an automation perspective, yes, definitely you could do something like that. Now, again, Haven't cracked the egg on this. This is all that the things that I've done previously, but yeah, it should be fun. Okay, so literally, I pulled this up because this was the only Google page. I'm like, okay, we got to get this. If you are pro tip, oh, Chuck. Here you go. They're going to be covering RPA Hub on Creator Toolbox, Love Coding Happy Hour, Breakpoint, and Blog the week of the 4-4. The only I'm jumping the gun on all this because I'm so excited about RPA. RPA is like a huge. I love RPA. I think it's so much fun. So yeah, I know I'm kind of diving into brand new stuff very quickly, but that's just me.
I feel like they should make a pun on 4-4, like 404. You know, like the week that can't be found.
Okay, yeah, 44. Like, yeah, okay.
Because you had the zero. So sorry, on tangent.
I mean, it works. It's okay. Well, so yeah, that's a pun about 44. Right?
404, like
404.
page can't be found.
No, I get
it. I tried too hard. All right.
Okay. Well, hey, Jake, or Jason Chica. Oh my gosh, Chuck wants to jump in. Yeah, Chuck. Let me give you a link. Give me 2 seconds.
So this is only available. Is this only available on Flow Designer? Do you know?
It is. It's not only. I would
say.
Sorry,
Integration Hub. I should say.
Yeah, I don't think it's only Integration Hub. It's definitely a huge part of it because we want to make sure that it's easy to code and low code, no code. Right. And Flow Designer obviously has that ability. I don't think it's necessarily just that in the way that like Flow Designer exposes a lot of things that you could call from a script, right? You can. I know you can call it the same way. So. Sort of. I don't know. We're gonna have to get into it again. Yeah. Let me I'm gonna DM you on LinkedIn real fast. Jace, can you vamp for like 2 minutes? Like, oh, you want to know what? You don't want to know what I saw while I'm doing that? Dave, look at this. This is beautiful for the CSS geeks.
Have you seen Design by Dave's website?
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, like, okay, so most of the people I know that work on service now, like they make it functional and then they try to make it pretty, but they focus on the functional. But then you have folks like the Sarah Tolsons and the Design by Daves who also make it delightful.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You know what's funny? So
that looks like it was made with that carbon.sh. Have you used carbon.sh to build cold
snippets? Oh my gosh, all the tools. Yes, carbon.sh is amazing. I love the way it just pops something like this out real fast. Like you can just write a little bit of code and then it just pops it out and it formats it, makes it look all nice. It's everything looks like you got a Mac though.
Like you can change that on carbon.sh. You can make it
old school like Windows 95 window. That'd be cool.
I mean, maybe I'd have to look at the settings, but
anyway, one of the things I wanted to point out here, Dave's using variables inside of his default variables inside of his CSS classes here, which is really neat because it falls back to that. So if that variable isn't set, the same level padding isn't set, he falls back to this default padding here, which is really, really neat. I thought that was a cool. Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Yeah. Anytime. Shout you out.
Wait, so you can have default variables that can be set outside of like they're different than regular CSS variables?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
Oh, man. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, isn't that cool? So
it's pretty cool.
You can see here he's got theme level padding, right?
And I suppose if I read the tweet, it would tell me.
Well, yeah. I'm trying. Oh, look. We have a special guest. Oh my gosh. All right. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Oh my gosh. So this is gonna go downhill quickly because
why? What did I do? You just made it sound like I lowered the quality of your show.
No, I'm you unfortunately like raised the quality of the show up, and then
I've got my expert sales vest on.
Oh no, yeah. So my buddy Rob, did you see he's got that in his LinkedIn bio now? It's the Rob Alvarado Sales Vest TM. I love it. So it's so funny. Yeah, it's a joke that keeps on giving. It's my favorite.
So yeah, your topic intrigued me because I just talked to Prasad, one of our PMs on RPA Hub today for the upcoming breakpoint that's coming out on the 6th. So, and I don't know if either of you, we had a boot camp on this shortly. Oh, was it November? I think it was.
I missed that.
I've got enough information to be dangerous. I have not built anything yet, but I know enough to build or to get started building.
Right. I mean, it's and that's kind of where I'm at, right? Where I've messed with RPA in the past. I have a previous vendor's experience, and now I'm like, ooh, let's apples to apples here and see what happens. But I'm super excited about this because of all the automation capabilities, right? And that's I mean, this you're talking about stepping it up to the next level where it's like, give me it doesn't matter. I'll integrate with whatever you've got. It doesn't matter. Just give it to me. And so that's what I'm really kind of excited. So I'm going to go through the process of installing this right now, which I know takes forever because that's just what plugin installation does. But
well, there's a couple of pieces to this too. You've got the Windows PC part where you've got your designer and then the part that actually runs the bots.
Oh, so it has like a local component.
It's the automation part.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the instance piece does the orchestration of it. And there's like bidirectional communication. So you can trigger a bot from a flow. You can check the status. You can do all kinds of things with the bots on that Windows machine. And then similarly, when you're making your design and saying, okay, this piece, you're going to go and open an Excel file and blah, blah, blah. And if the value is greater than 1,000, let's run a flow and get an approval or something. So you can throw things back at the instance and go, hey, fire up this flow. Cause we got APIs there. For the viewer, the whole point of RPA, and I didn't get this until like 6 months ago. It's like, why do we need RPA? Why do our analysts keep asking about this? It's for apps that don't have any APIs, like those classic .NET apps that somebody wrote just for the desktop and nothing else, or maybe even a browser app that just kind of sits inside your firewall and does nothing else, doesn't need APIs. So you can do a lot of handy stuff right down to like pixel regions if you have to. A lot of applications have zones or IDs or, things that they can recognize. But if it doesn't, you can say, here's a rectangle at this place. Make sure you put some numbers in there. And over here is a submit button and make sure you click that. So you can get very granular and detailed on that, all with drag and drop stuff. There's like little to no coding.
And that's to me, it's not just the ones that like it might be a legacy application or it might just be a web app that doesn't work properly, right?
Yeah.
It's the ones that it's like, hey, I've got an API and I've got 90% of the functionality in here and there's 10% of it and it's like, yeah, it's business critical. Like, sorry, we have to have it. I'm like, oh man, like it's right there. I can see it and I just can't get to it. I just can't quite get to it. Yeah, that's a problem.
There's even like, use cases. I wish I had this when I was back at my old company, because you get this new employee reservation and somebody would, on the catalog item or the order guide, they would check and they need AS400 access. And you're like, oh crap. There's a manual task. All right. Now you can automate that stuff.
Yeah, it's all automated now, right? Like
you should definitely not use it when you have APIs available, though.
No. Why would you? Why would you?
I understand.
It's not fast. I'm going to tell you this. It's as fast as a human goes. It's like, go over here, click that.
Well, there was a guy once who made a hackathon entry for one of the ServiceNow events that was a clicker game, and Earl Duke, you know,
really, he did it. It was like a clicker bot.
Yeah, it was with one of the new Now Experience things. I'm not the Agent Workspace, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very cool.
It'd be fun to kind of see this work on that, but you totally shouldn't do that. Instead, you should use APIs for most of those calls.
If you have APIs, use them, because if you're entering 100 records, it's going to be a lot faster with an API than it is doing this.
I wonder where this ranks on like the things you should use for integrations, right? You know, way back when it was if you have AP like SOAP access, use that first. If you have what is it, database access, use that first. If you have SOAP access, use that next. If you have email integrations, use that third. I mean, obviously there's more new ones now.
I would put this somewhere around that email neighborhood. I mean, it's not the lowest common denominator, but you can't email Excel. You know, you can't email rows into Excel. You could potentially do that into Google Sheets, I suppose, but they have APIs also, so I wouldn't even go there.
Oh, I suppose. Yeah, this could actually give you access to like doing APIs where you know that they exist, but they haven't given you permissions.
Nice comment, Andrew. Go back and tell them to do it right.
And that's, I was thinking about that too, Jace, right? Like it's at this point, it's like if I'm allowed to click it, I'm allowed to do it, right? So if your API gets rate limited, like I'm not advocating this at all, but like Twitter has an API rate limit, right? And people are like, well, if I do it through the Twitter like UI, it doesn't rate limit me. There's going to be situations like that where it's like I need to do something and I'm limited.
If you're doing RPA through a Twitter account, so you can just bring up the screen and send things out, I don't think you'll ever reach your limit because it's that much slower. It's not, and the Twitter API limit is it's pretty dang high.
Yeah, it's pretty high. And
you can send a few hundred messages a day or something ridiculous. I can't remember what it is. I was looking at it recently.
For your own protection too. Like you don't want to be that guy that just flooded a bunch, like, oops, sorry, like my bad. Like, but I think, and in typical plugin install fashion, right? I'm stuck at 8%, which it's fine. We can vamp.
No, you're supposed to be stuck at like 98%. If we're stuck here, we're gonna be here all night.
It's gonna be a problem. That's all right. That's why it's office hours and it's Q&A. This is our background task. I've learned.
I may need to go get a drink.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So the biggest or the best use case that I saw with this, and this was we were talking about I think it was internal. There was a RPA use case that they had where it was literally and I don't remember the process because they didn't tell me the process, but it was a lift and shift from like a payroll, like, hey, we're moving from one payroll system to another, right? And they actually built out this RPA process to pull the information out of payroll system A and put it into payroll system B, like automatically. It took them like 3 weeks of running it, right? Like it wasn't fast or speedy by any means, but it was kind of this interesting.
If you can automate that and save the human effort and say, look, you humans have better things to do. And it takes your month-end close cycle from 3 weeks down to 1 week or something. Exactly. That's significant.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what they were. That's really that was the big use case. Where like it was a one-time thing. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't going to stick around. And once that code was one and done, but it's so cool to be able to write a process that might speed up. Like, hey, I could sit 10 interns on this if I really wanted to, but like, why do that? Like, let's let robots do it, and we can continue on here. So that's
don't get into the whole robots are taking your job thing.
No. Yeah, right. Yeah, come on. There's if RPA makes you afraid that a robot's going to take your job, let me tell you something. You've got bigger things to be afraid of, my friends.
I don't think it's an issue with developers because developers are naturally lazy people anyway. We're always looking for a shortcut, and if you can make a computer do what I normally do, it's like, fine, go do it.
No, that's why, and that's why I'm just gonna set us back to talking heads here, because it's not moving at all.
Nothing happening here, kids. Move along.
I don't have 8%. We'll ask for regular updates. I'll ask you at the 20 minute.
No, it's okay. Yeah, in 20 minutes, you let me know, and I'll tell you it's still at 8%.
If it gets to be my bedtime,
man, this was terribly planned. I was like, you know what? I'll do the Q&A, and I'll let it install in the background, and I'll be the smartest person alive. No.
Didn't you watch my thing on the Facebook OpenID Connect last Friday on Live Coding Happy Hour? Always install the plugins first.
I know, and as I'm saying it in my head, I'm like, I can hear Chuck is like, you should have just installed it. Like, why didn't you just install it? Like,
I mean, it's like a baking show, right? You got to kind of prep it in the oven. Yeah, here's an instance with it not installed, but I took the time an hour ago and I installed it on this other instance I have access to. We're just gonna shift over there. And by the time we're done building our first automation, we'll go to the first instance and show you that we actually installed it.
Can you imagine if they didn't do any editing on the Great British Baking Show? They get to the technical challenge. It takes like 4.5 hours.
Oh my God. No one would watch that. At this point, it's like it's the Netflix, Cake or Not, or what is it? Cake or Not? Like, what is that? There's a new one.
I saw a preview of that, or a little snippet of that today.
Is it installed or not? Like, no, it's sorry. And this is, I mean, this is because like who knows what I've junked up in my employee instance at this point. Like, I'm sure there's a hung process somewhere waiting on me.
I leave my employee instance alone. It is in pristine shape. Because I always clone it. It's got the nightly build on it, which is not always a good idea because sometimes they put things on and take it off, and then you didn't really get the latest. But that's only happened like 3 times in the last 12 years. But so that way, if I need another one, I go here, make me a demo instance and clone that one, and I have a brand new nightly build, and I don't ever have to mess with my employee instance.
So maybe this is uniquely like a ServiceNow employee problem, right? But I have this like, I don't want to get another instance because
instant sprawl. Yes, right, yes, it is.
Like, and I'm so worried about that because someone is gonna go, do you know how many instances you have running and you have cost this company? It's like, no. Like, I'm sorry.
Okay, honestly, how many do you have right now?
I just have the one.
Not counting your PDI or PDIs.
Well, then it's just one because it's my PDIs are my throwaway ones, right? Like
right.
How many PDIs do you have?
Just one. And then when I'm done with whatever it is, it gets reclaimed and it goes. I don't ever keep the PDI, right? It stays around.
Oh, I've been hanging on to this one for a good long time because it has a nice 79,000. It's a great number.
Wow.
I don't know how I did that, but you how many like demo employee instances do you have?
Well, it's different because I work on Now Learning, so it's not like I have a copy of Now Learning running around with me. But it's just my employee instance. That's it. That's the only one I kind of mess with. And then obviously I've got sub-productions for Now Learning, and we've got tons of those instances running around. So I'm not at like a loss for instances, I guess, which just sounds so elitist at this point. Like, oh yeah, sure, I've got that sub-prod instance that we can.
But they're not coming after you. They'll come after me first.
No, well, there you go. Well, I doubt they're watching my stream. So the good news is you could be as honest as you want on yours, right? It's a little different. Oh man, that's great. And you know what? It hasn't moved an inch. It's still.
Well, you know what? We got a great question from Andrew in the chat while we were waiting, and he had asked, "What feature other than RPA are you excited about in San Diego?"
Oh, I've got a great one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is I claim this one as my own, but I doubt it's me. I'm sure there were other people that requested this, but in Flow Designer, in the scripted REST action, you can now return a custom response body, and that is phenomenal. Like that's huge.
Wait, say that in the REST action. REST.
I know, right? So
in the REST step, what part are you
in the REST trigger? Sorry.
Oh, the scripted REST API replacement. Yes.
Trigger. Yeah. You can actually return the response body, which replaces scripted REST APIs. I'm like,
yeah.
Finally.
Yeah. Bim was telling us about that. I didn't know it was San Diego. I thought it might have been Tokyo, but that's out now.
I'm pretty sure I saw that.
Lordy. Now I have to rewrite about 50,000 scripted REST APIs as flows.
Oh, well, as you come across them, right?
You don't have to rewrite them yet.
I have one that is a choice candidate for a decision table.
You know what? If you put whatever it is you're working on GitHub and make issues for them and take them Hacktoberfest, they'll be done by October.
And you get a t-shirt.
Just trying to help you out, Chuck.
No, I think the majority of my development on that karaoke app is done.
I was showing the karaoke app to a coworker. He was like,
"You have 3 accounts on that karaoke system."
I have 3 accounts on there. Well, I forget how I log in.
You click Google. You click the Gmail.
You feel free to delete my accounts. I'll just keep remaking them.
I'm gonna have to come up with some data management. Like, can you merge my accounts because I have points on this one and points on that one?
Really, I'm just showing other people the app because
when you do that, Chuck, you let me know because I've got a couple of places where I could use an account merge.
You go click, merge. Who's the source? Who's the target?
Yeah. It's still at 8%. I honestly think I hung my note at this point because I don't know. I want to hit the restart. I want to
cancel my transactions.do.
I know. I just want to see. Yeah, my whole thing.
You know what else we could talk about?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you guys looked at the new work that Arnold, I don't want to say his last name, Arnold K. Cooey did with
Arnold Cooey. Actually, yeah, it's he told me how to say it. Somebody else said in Dutch it's like koi. Two O's are like, what did they say? It's like book, koi, and OU is more like There's certain real subtleties about Dutch. I'm trying to be respectful to people and say their names right, but
it's hard.
It's hard.
But anyways, designed by Dave, I think, made a pull request on the repo to make it look nicer because he's got a thing for making things look good. Yeah. And Arnold added a thing where you get the Monaco editor, if you're familiar with VS Code. So if you want to edit any script field in ServiceNow, an idea I put up there because I'm like, I would like to use the Monaco editor, and I love multiple cursors. So now if you go to ServiceNow and you have the instance thing set up, there's a little script tag button by every script field, and you can just click it. It opens a new tab with the Monaco editor.
Oh, I saw some changes in the latest version, but I haven't seen that.
So let's back up for just a second because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to now chop this out and make it a small video. What we're talking about here is it's SN utils, right, Jace?
Yeah, SN utils by Arnold Koo. It's on the Chrome. It's on the Chrome Web Store, and it's also on Firefox.
It is.
And if you have a non-ServiceNow domain, you can get a second version of the thing that works with every domain.
Say that again.
So some instances are on their own domain or on a federated domain, whatever that is. I don't know what that is because I'm not on one. But when you set up a plugin, you have to say this will work on servicenow.com or this will work on, jace.pro, right?
Yep.
If you have your own domain, you can't obviously have it work on your own domain. So there's a second plugin that's more permissive. It's called the on-prem version of SN utils.
Okay. All right. So that got a little more tighter in scope than I was anticipating. But SN utils is a Chrome plugin that allows you to really automate a lot of the things that I'm not going to say you find annoying with the platform, but like
shortcuts.
Shortcuts, right? Like for example, my favorite thing, and I'm like, why don't we have this? Is the ability to see the named fields next to, right? So you can see the label, and then next to the field, you actually see the name of the field, which is super helpful when I'm trying to debug something and I'm like, what was that field name again? And I don't want to have to go into the table definition to figure that out. So yeah, it's
you don't right click and say show field.
Well, I mean,
the name is
you can
there.
do that, but you can also just use the plugin and see all of the fields.
Oh, right.
Well, 9 times out of 10, Chuck, I'm trying to copy and paste.
I find that the more I enable on SN utils, well, I do a lot of demos, so I can't really leave it on, or people go, what's that? Why is that? And it does kind of get cluttery after a while, I'll be honest. When you've got labels and script tags and like, ugh, I'm not turning all this stuff off for the demo.
You could definitely use somebody to make the whole plugin look nice. It doesn't look it looks good, but like there's just a lot of stuff going on.
Sure.
Yes, that's where I was getting.
I think I suffer from neurodiverseness. I have clutter blindness, like 100%. So like I'm like I don't even see it anymore. Or like I'll have it on and people are like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like I have no idea. Like isn't that out of the box? Like I forgot that I turned that on in SN utils. So
there's features in there that I had no idea. I was on the community live stream one day and I like double clicked on the breadcrumbs of a list filter. I was like, "Hey, there's the encoded query. Where did that come from?" I didn't even know I had the plugin installed.
Yeah, it's one of those things like when you don't have it, or there are certain plugins like when I move. I mean, add to update set is one of those plugins. Like when I don't have that in an instance, I feel lost.
I gave that thing up about years ago. That is, and people who have it on every record, it's like, oh god, it starts to get in the way. First of all, why are you still using update sets?
Because they're convenient.
Well,
they're annoying and they're error prone. I don't know.
As a customer, I'm telling you, like it's just way easier
it
using
makes,
update set.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Managing which one you're in and then going, it's like, oh, I pulled too many. This one wasn't supposed to be completed yet. Reopen it. Don't reopen update sets. Oh wait, we have to apply these in the right order. Did you batch them? And like, that's just sorry.
There's lots of problems with update sets, but there's lots of problems with source control still. Like just the way it's set up in the instance. Don't get me wrong. I think source control is the future and that's the way to go. And I use Git for other stuff and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But like most of the folks I work with have no idea. And then with source control, you introduce a whole nother slew of problems because you can't use update. You can't use source control on all things. If you're working,
you can.
If you're working at least up until San Diego, if you're working in a scoped app that is a vendor scope, you couldn't use source control.
Yeah, that came out. What was it, Quebec? Mark?
No,
it's been at least a couple of releases. We've had all bases covered.
Where you can work on
plugins,
vendor,
store apps, global scoped apps. It's all covered. It's been that way for at least a year.
And
I've been told it just got up to date with San Diego with that stuff for source control within a vendor scoped app if you need customizations on it. Otherwise, you conflict with possibly theirs.
Someone gave you some misinformation.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. And here's why. And it's not. I'm not. Again. It's office hours. It's not debate time. The reason I think that might be misleading is now learning. I know we were doing something very similar with we'll call it a vendor, right? We inherited a scoped app from another team that was working on independent features while we were working on Now Learning at the same time. We were able to use source control to take those in from the app store, app repo, if I recall correctly, and then push them all the way through our stack. So yeah, I'd be interested to know what that use case is, but yeah, as far as I know, I'm going to go with Chuck on this one.
All right. Well, I'll let you know personally outside of this if I have problems.
No, he's going to.
We're going to get some Slack messages tomorrow.
No, it's totally fine. I just want to because like I'm all about it. Like I think it is definitely the future because it does simplify. Like how do you move stuff up? Oh, here's some new developer who's used to regular development.
So here's a different tool. MGoPow, Libra Toolkit.
Yeah.
Another thing. I don't know that I've ever checked that out. Have you guys had much with Libra Toolkit?
I'm not familiar with it.
Oh,
I've heard of it.
That's the first time hearing of it, but I'm gonna have to go do some research and figure that out because that sounds interesting, and especially if Maria's telling me. Jim D, what is this Now Learning you mentioned? Come on, Jim. You know. He's probably laughing about all. Yeah, because we were, he was part of the whole source control. And
Libra is a thing that Jared Munt set up. I'm looking at the GitHub repo now. It's at j4rodm/sn Libra on github.com.
Interesting. Huh. I'll have to take a look at it. Might be a new tool to digest and understand for a future release. Or for a future stream, not a release. I'm like, I'm totally hung.
Are we at 9%?
Still at 8.
Get the modal back up now. Like,
oh
man.
Cancel my transactions.do.
Or you lost the modal, so now you're looking for the progress. Where is you can find that? It's a progress record, right? It's like a sys progress
let's
thing.
let my pain be someone else's gain here. So cancel. Is it underscore truck?
Cancel _ transactions.do.
Okay, so not com. No, what am I doing? Sorry, it's late.
.com.
Andrew Obrador came in with the thing.
This is like a force quit for your whatever you have running.
Look, it worked, even though I'm a dummy. it still worked. So that's good to know.
That I hate to say it, but that needs to be like cache.do. It needs to be in the side menu.
Yeah. Well, and cache.do, scary. Cancel my transactions. I'm fine with, but when you kill the cache, that's instance wide.
Yeah, and it takes a while to rebuild some cachy stuff. There was there was somebody said, "Why is my system running so slow?" And I hopped on, and I'm like, yeah, it is slow. Turns out they had, I forget if it was a business rule or something that was running like every second or so, or 5 seconds, and it was doing a gs.set property. And you all know when you set a property, it clears the cache.
Yes,
so
it
effectively, they had no cache.
I didn't know that until about 2018, Chuck, just heads up, or 2017.
One of those fun things.
Yeah. Yeah. Setting a property in production will clear its cache. Just that's one of those.
Don't put set property in a script. You're just going to live a better life if you don't do that.
Well, okay. First of all, I challenge anyone. Like, why are you setting properties in scripts? I don't think it should happen. Like, you as a human being should be the only one setting a property.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone that has written a few plugins for the store, I'm like, please don't write anything that sets the sys property of my plugin to.
If you're setting a property and it's more than once a year by a human, you're doing it wrong, or you should find a different place to store that information. Like maybe a table.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I can't do.
So when you just when you set a property and it clears the cache,
update set property.
So when you change a property, does it clear it for all the nodes or just the node you're on?
So the property actually has a checkbox that says clear the cache or ignore cache is what it says. So you can make properties that don't flush the cache. I'm not sure why, but normally the default is if I set a property, whether it's through gs.set property or I physically go into the UI or I go into sys under properties.do and I change it there, it's going to clear the cache.
And it'll do it for all of the nodes.
Pretty sure. Yeah, because it's a system-wide thing and all the nodes need to know what the new property is.
That's true.
Because properties are cached. Because that's how they get accessed all the time. They're very fast.
Yeah.
Well, as they should. Yeah, as they should be. Because when you're trying to do a mission critical, like should this be on or off? Like you kind of want that cached because it's going to happen a few times. What the heck am I doing wrong here, guys? Because I swear that I had a result before.
Andrew Obador says, "Look for progress workers. You might see it in progress workers."
Wait, he doesn't even have the plugin right now.
Yeah,
it's like it's gone.
Just went away. Like it just.
Maybe that's a special feature with this UI. I mean, maybe it's installing, and while it's installing, you can't see it. I don't know. I still miss the old list.
You can still get the old list. You know, you can go v under plugin.list in the filter.
But it's not going to help him in this situation.
No, maybe not. His RPA license has just been revoked.
I think that's what happened. Somebody was like, no. He doesn't need that. Well, that is unfortunate. So, well,
better change the title of this show. It has nothing to do with RPA anymore.
We talked a lot about it, and now it's time to sign off. I hope everybody learned something because I sure did.
I'll take the fall for that.
Is it still installing if you look at the progress workers?
What progress? Right? Where am I?
Okay, bring up your instance. Let him walk you through this.
Yeah. So Andrew's right about looking at if you run something and it has a pop-up saying like, "Hey, we're updating." You know, say you added a field to CMDB and you have like 2 bajillion records on CMDB. It'll take like a day to update that, to add that field every whatever. If you go to progress workers, which you don't see here for some reason, I think it's sys_progress_worker.
Did you like impersonate Abel Tutor or something?
Is that how you pronounce it? I thought it was Able Tutor.
Did you read his Twitter feed?
No.
He said it's Dutch. It's Abel.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Abel. I don't mean to offend.
All right. What am I doing? Sys_workers_.
I think it's sys_progress_workers.
Next, he's going to be going to table definitions, looking up all the sys tables. You're going to learn. Whoever's watching this is going to learn how we reverse engineer.
Sorry, it's not plural. It's probably not plural. Most tables in ServiceNow aren't.
Except the PA ones and sys under properties.
Hey, we don't judge.
That's the ones that are.
I judge.
Well, I mean, can you guys fix it?
You can't change sys under properties at this point. That ship has
I mean,
sailed.
you
Can
can
fix it? No. Like,
so you can sort this by it's running right there.
yeah, it's
Install
running an
application.
install. Yeah, but it's creating a table. Yeah.
Well, oh yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
It's running.
Maria says that her whole world has been shook. I don't know what for though.
Regarding what?
Maybe
Progress
sys
workers?
properties.
Canceling
Yeah, maybe it's the
transactions.
progress record. No, it's got to be the progress record where she's like, wait, what is that? Because I've never looked at this table before.
If you have something that you need to know where it's at and how long it's going to take, this is where you got to go. If you have a slow installing update set, I know Chuck likes update sets.
Do you know how many times this would have
Yeah, another place to go is what is it? The transaction record, or is it sys trigger?
Sys trigger would be where the scheduled jobs
jobs are run from sys under trigger. Yep.
Right. And a lot of things pipe through that you wouldn't necessarily expect.
I didn't think
Do flow designers run through that? The non asynchronous ones?
We're about to find out.
I thought they did. Because when flows first came out, they weren't synchronous, right? You couldn't have like wait on stuff, if I remember correctly.
This isn't a logging table, though.
But I think they do now, yeah. Oh, Maria's saying that the pronunciation of Oval's name, Chuck, is
that blew her away.
Yeah. Well, we're still cooking with gas, but like I don't think people want to watch this. This isn't fun.
I want to watch this. What are we doing here? If you click on that record, does it tell you anything more?
I mean, I'm sure there's some fun facts in here, but
I'm going to dig into the Wayback Machine. If there's a sys trigger, is there also a sys Roy Rogers? Mark got it.
I don't get it. That went right over. It's right to the unicorn.
Roy Rogers was an old country singer, had a TV show, and was in some movies and whatnot, like back in the 40s, 50s. What was it? And his horse's name was Trigger.
Trigger. Yeah.
He hung out with the cutie named Dale Evans.
It's a different time.
Yeah, it was.
Maria, I'm glad we can be great background noise while you're fixing your 3D printer. I thought that this thing would teach me how to automate a 3D printer.
Yeah, that was Jason's initial understanding.
Well, you aimed way too high tonight.
Way.
A long time ago, I used to work at a factory that made semiconductors for a living, and so it had all those robotics, and so like it totally makes sense to me that when RPA, when robotic process automation started coming to service now, that was my first thought. Like, they're going to start controlling mechanical arms to move wafers up and down.
I was looking for a KUKA arm to come out and like eject the CD or something.
Yeah, like a space machine or something cool. Like, I'm not saying that's impossible, but that would be neat. Like, I don't know. Somebody wants to send us one of those like awesome articulating arms, like
or Boston Dynamics dog or something.
Yeah, right. Like I'm not gonna send it back. Like I'll plug it into the platform, sure.
Oh, that would be a great hack zone, wouldn't it? To see one of those Boston Dynamic dogs.
You know what?
You could have it deliver interpersonal correspondence around the office.
Email, like it's like this AP. Like, could you imagine making a post request to that where a printed letter gets pointed and then it like grabs it and then like runs it down to someone who then has to like type that response in? Yeah, that would be great.
It could be like the most important approval process. Only the most important approvals get printed out and walked.
Oh man.
Jason's gonna have an office that still has those brown inner office envelopes, but they're gonna be delivered by robots.
Jace is making his own dystopian future. Like Jace will be the one like maintaining all the robots. Like, how did I get here?
No, you gotta get robots to maintain the robots. You gotta hire Wally. That's how it works.
There you go. Yeah. You gotta teach him to love.
Andrew's got it. Andrew's got it. Pictures a dog getting mail from the slot, but it's a robot dog.
Yeah. Right. I like that idea. That's a good idea. That's not a bad idea. Like that's But I mean, I don't even know how many percent it's done.
you won't. You won't know until it's done.
You can't click into that record.
That's the curse and the benefit of
it just tells you everything that's on the list.
I mean, it's some nice
running,
data, but it's not much. It's not. Oh,
running.
Not enough that I'd be able to update stakeholders and be like, it's almost done, guys. Just give me 10 more minutes. That's not how this is going to work. Huh. Well, I've learned something.
That's good. We all learned something tonight.
I got a question for you guys. Me and Maria are having a chat on YouTube about 3D printers. Do either of you have a 3D printer?
I do.
What kind of 3D printer do you have, Mark?
Me, I have a crap. I can't remember the name. I can't. No, it's. Yeah, it's Chuck's turn to go first.
My answer's wow. That was a great handoff. Yeah. I do not, and I am. It's a bit like a game console. I'm afraid to go down that slippery slope and suck up the rest of my life that I don't already have.
Right? I want to get one. I think they sound very awesome. Like the idea that you can just 3D print objects that can solve real problems that you have. But it's like a drone for me. Like I think also having a flying drone would be awesome. But then I think, what would I use it for?
Exactly. I don't have that killer use case for a 3D printer yet. Not personally, anyway.
Okay, this is not mine, but it is very similar to mine. I can't remember what mine is called. The reason I bought this is called the Monoprice Voxel 3D. It's all enclosed. Like there's no leveling. There's no anything. So Chuck's like, I don't want it to consume my life. I'm like, yeah, it didn't. Like it just shows up and I just make it print. But
go ahead.
The problem is it does end up consuming your life because you end up learning a brand new like skill set. Yep. And it's totally different. And I'm like, I don't know that I want to go into this. Like, I'll be on like the periphery of it, but like my stuff is really clunky and gross. And that's totally fine for me. Like, I don't want to go any further into this hobby. But yeah.
Yeah, I would have to have somebody feed me the files like, here, this is how you make
that's the other thing.
Star Trek comm badge. Great, I'll print that. Be done.
And that exists.
Are either of you familiar with how the files are made to do the printing?
Yes.
So like you slice the file so it knows what layer to print, and like it's all complicated. But it's
stereolithography.
Yes.
Is that what that's called?
That's been around for decades.
Yeah. And it's crazy to me.
Andrew says Thingiverse. That's my thing. That's what got me hooked on this, Chuck, is I could just pull a file from Thingiverse and and I was done. And then I started going, I can change these files too. And then it got out of hand.
I think it'd be really cool to get a group of, like, my brother Russ has one, my brother Eric has one, my buddy Eric has one.
Well, then you're all set. Why do you need one?
Just because I want to make a farm of them so I can print one huge thing across all 4 printers. But then, if I remember correctly, not all things print the same across the printers, even if they're the same make and model. Like you might have to do different things based on how your printer prints.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's based on this because the setup can be completely different, right? Like the leveling can be different. The heat, I mean, you're talking about extruder temperatures. The bed can be different, which can cause the heat to be different. Humidity can make a difference. Like, it's not consumer grade yet. Let's just put it that way.
But it's fun.
It's nothing like installing RPA. It's just going smoothly.
I want to see one of those giant ones that prints houses. Have you seen that?
The concrete ones?
The concrete 3D printers.
There was some, like, one of the proposals for like the Artemis projects for the moon was to like take like Legolith from the moon and like mix it with water and then like spit it out and like make like bases and stuff.
Moon houses. 3D printed moon houses.
That's amazing. Yeah. Like
you just got to get the water, and theoretically there's some of that at the poles in the craters.
Well, I mean, you got enough hydrogen with you, probably O2 and hydrogen.
You don't have to worry about humidity out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, since we're just burning time, we're talking about other stuff. James D on LinkedIn said he used to race electric cars from the late 80s, and having a 3D printer would be great to print out new gears. And I actually just spent $150 buying it's called a TT02 car that's for racing. It's like 5 years old. But it's like $150 racing car that I'm assembling. Mine looks like a semi-truck.
$150 and you still got to assemble it yourself.
You actually build every component. So like
I get that.
the drive shaft and like I don't know the words and stuff, but it has like all the working machinery in the motor you build.
That's neat. The funny thing Jim D, is we're talking about with like the layer heights and stuff. Like it's hard to get like that, like with the RC cars, it's hard to get like that precise with the gearing and stuff. Like it's I just saw a print for it was a threaded bolt and a nut, and it was like that big, and that was as small as you could get it because the preciseness just wasn't there to get it. Like higher end, sure, but yeah, whatever. This is still going.
Well, Maria, if you want to build one of these cars, let me know. We can get some Raspberry Pis and do some like official clocking races.
Wow.
Like plug them in there, see what happens.
See, now Jace is a person that owns something from beginning to end. Like you're talking about the Raspberry Pi to clock the car speed. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. You know, that's a goal I have. I have got this Raspberry Pi right here, and actually, my webcam is a Raspberry Pi. If you want to see how that was done, you can go to Jeff Geerling's website. But what I want to do is I want to get one of these things and plug it into the car. There's a ton of space, and hook it up so I can like measure like the revolutions per second and like see nice graphs of like how fast it goes and maybe like battery usage. And I don't know, like why not?
I'm not saying anything because I've got a Raspberry Pi monitoring my garage door right now.
I mean, I've only got a couple like in reach of me at all times. I don't understand.
If you can't reach for a Raspberry Pi and find one, you're not a nerd. I mean,
I curse Jason McKee for getting me into Pis and Arduinos. That sucked up a lot of my life a few years ago, but it was fun because it felt like for the first time in my life, when I was building the health club for Knowledge 19, I was going end to end on my career. Everything from soldering wires to connect up the RFID badge reader to ServiceNow on the other end. And there was Node-RED in the middle. There was firmware upgrades. It was everything. Everything I've done for the last 40 years was in this one project. And I was just so in love.
Isn't that so cool? I mean, like, I don't know. It's, I don't want to say it's like caveman, whatever, but like touching and feeling and touching an actual thing. Like we work with software all day, right? Like being able to build that circuit and plumb it all the way through to the software and then the software all the way through. I'm like, that just makes you feel really special. Like something about it where you're like, you know, like 20 years ago, this was not possible. Like this was,
it was, I mean, not the automation and the rapid development we have in service now. But I worked with engineers for well over 20 years, mechanical engineers, printed circuit board engineers, firmware engineers. It was an engineering firm within a larger electronics manufacturing company. They did contract work. So early versions of conference room reservation systems, medical equipment, telecom equipment. And that's how I knew about stereolithography, is because there were mechanical engineers in there as well. And it was a fun place to be a sysadmin. It's like, I learned a lot. I learned how mechanical mice worked. Okay, think about it. There's a mechanical mouse, and you've got an X. You know, you had a ball. Remember mouse balls?
Yeah.
Mouse balls. Yeah. And it rolled. But I said, what happens when you stop? How does it know you're going? You know, I took it apart, and I said, there's a gear in here. There's an X gear and a Y gear.
Right.
So it knows, you know, if you're going up, down, left, right. How does it know when you stop which direction you just started going in? Because if you've got X, Y, you know, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like you only have zeros and ones because the little wheel that rides alongside the gear or the ball just has holes in it.
Yeah, it's on or it's off.
It's on or it's off.
Yeah.
So I took this to my buddy Fred, and I said, Fred, you're an engineer. How does it work? And he answered me in 2 words: quadrature waveform. I said, that's great, Fred. In English, please. Yeah. It turns out that there are actually 2 pairs of LEDs going through those holes, and one of them is 90 degrees out of phase.
What?
So you've got 4 possibilities. So now you've got, you know, with two bits, effectively, you got a 0, 0, 0, 1, a 1, 0, and a 1, 1. So now you know, did I go from 1, 0 to 1, 1, or did I go from 1, 0 to 0, 1? So it's like, dude, that's just freaking awesome. And then, you know, we got away from that and went to optical mice.
Amazing? Like, I love, I mean, if, and, you know, automatic transmissions, right? What are we talking about, right? Like automatic.
What happened to RPA Hub? We're on automatic
RPA,
transmissions.
where are we going? Like, you know, what 40s, Like that. When was the first
Yeah.
automatic? You know, and we're talking about like if you dissect how an automatic
they make absolutely no sense.
it's incredible. Like it's just like
yeah,
centrifuge.
it is incredible.
It's just incredible.
But you look inside it and go, this makes no sense.
All it is fluid in a bunch of chambers. That's it. Like that's the only thing that makes your car go. Like it.
It's like it's time to shift. I was like, really?
Yeah, and it knows. And it just happens. There was no computer that did that. Like the amount of just sheer engineering that I think went into some of the older solutions that we just don't even think about from a day-to-day, bot process. Like I mean, barcode scanning is just insane. Like the amount of like work that goes like the back and forth and all the stuff. Like my brother works on lasers. There's a like the lasers that send like messages between satellites. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, quantum mechanics affects the light wavelength of whatever, and they have to like filter that crap out. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is insanity just so I can make a phone call. Like, man, like technology.
Do you know GPS has to take into account the theory of relativity?
Special relativity, yeah, because gravity works differently. Yeah.
Right, because those satellites are further away from the center of mass of the Earth. So time is actually going slightly differently than us as humans down here. And if you didn't take that into account, you might tell somebody to turn into a lake.
It's incredible.
We've got plenty of lakes in Minnesota. It's easy enough to tell somebody to turn into a lake.
Yeah, there you go.
Also, did you know lakes are not like, there's not like a defined size of a lake. Like Minnesota defines lakes as a specific size, and Wisconsin defines puddles as lakes.
A puddle could be a lake?
Well, no, not puddles. I'm sorry.
I thought a lake had to be like navigable or something reasonable.
I think that's like Great Lakes, like derogatory, like your puddle.
It's state specific. So I'm a Minnesotan and I live in Minnesota, and our like license plates say like land of 10,000 lakes,
which is not exactly true, but okay.
I think we have more than 10,000.
I think you do, and most of them are like glacial impact.
But Wisconsin, they have the Packers and stuff, and so like they're like a football rival of Minnesota and stuff. But they say that they have more lakes than we do
because they count puddles.
Well, their definition of lake is smaller than ours.
So you gotta, I mean, like, is there a whole like gerrymandering for lakes now, where people are like, well, if we include this one, like,
if we have a certain number of lakes, we get a tax break.
Right. Yeah, like if we have a certain number, we can print it on our license plates.
Wisconsin's going to change theirs to more lakes than Minnesota.
Yeah, right.
I'll find a thing and tweet about it later, but I read about it and I was like, that is ridiculous.
It's just going to say, petty. Suck it, Minnesota.
We're so off topic. There's no topic.
We don't have a topic anymore. It failed.
Isn't this like liberating, right? Where it's like, I don't care.
Is it still installing? We're at 30 minutes over when I said it asked you.
No. I want to do like an hour. Right? Like,
we've been at this for about an hour.
We got about 2.5 minutes to build some RPA.
It's still installing. Like, and here I'm trying to make content, for people that are earlier in career, maybe just starting their service now kind of stuff. Right. And this is a cautionary tale of, hey, if you've got like an assignment or something to get done, like make sure you install that plugin before.
Do you have like the Windows installers? Have you done that part yet?
No.
Because you still got to do that.
I did a Google search and I found RPA Hub, and then I went, stop.
You're going to have the instance side, but you don't have the designer, and you can't actually launch any bots unless you have a Windows machine.
My grand idea was
wait, can you design stuff off of ServiceNow with the RPA?
Yes, the designer is currently a Windows app, and the roadmap is to bring the designer part in platform.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Well,
Also,
you're going to have to listen to Breakpoint on the 6th.
I have another question about this.
I'm always one chapter ahead of the students.
This is a low-code solution, right?
Yeah.
So the designer, is it like the that programming language on the Pies, where you can just
kind of, yeah, you're dragging things and you're connecting them, and you have inputs and properties on each input. Yeah.
So this might be more used than some other integrations if a development team didn't have the capacity to build integrations.
I don't know if I would classify it as capacity. I'd still recommend going after APIs first.
Of course. But the last 3 teams I've worked on, there's been we have the next year of stuff that's way important. Somebody's like, hey, can you guys automate this little thing over here? And their boss is like, no, we don't got time for that stuff.
I'm sure a citizen developer could do some simple stuff, but there are some concepts in there that get pretty deep pretty quickly.
Well,
there's
and
lots of
Andrew,
options.
I was thinking of Scratch for that programming language. Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing I think, to keep in mind, right? This is brand new, right? So Chuck, to your point, right?
Yes and no. It's brand new to us, and RPA Hub is new to the platform.
Right.
But the designer and the bot runner, I forget what it's called now. That just kind of the automation part of it is we got it from the
M&A,
the IntelliBot acquisition.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they've been working on it for a number of years. So this is a very mature product. They've got like 3,500 components in their library right now for OCR and applications. You go, I want some Windows apps, and it just gives you here's a library full of other stuff. So in a way, it's kind of like Node-RED like you said.
Okay, so now my expectations are through the roof, right? Because I'm thinking this is going to be like, look, I work at Service. We put out like, hey, this is manageable. Let's get this out the door, right? I'm thinking this is a first pass product. Like what we're talking about is full on. Like this is OCR, all that stuff. Like that's incredible. Like 100%. Now I'm absolutely. Could you like go faster? Like I can't get this to work fast.
Well, that's why I was wondering, and I asked. I asked today. I said, what's on the roadmap? Because this is fairly well built, and he gave me some stuff that's on the roadmap. So it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Did you guys know that today is exactly 1 year from when ServiceNow announced the acquisition of IntelliBot?
How weird.
That's a lot in a year.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I've been taking notes on ServiceNow's mergers and acquisitions because I take notes on everything.
You've got that awesome calendar, and you've asked me for. Okay, because I've got release dates, but I don't have acquisition dates.
We coordinated them. It's out of date for San Diego, and probably other releases. I lost access to stuff, but yeah, a year ago today, ServiceNow. It was on ZDNet. ServiceNow acquires Hyderabad-based RPA company IntelliBot.
So San Diego's easy. EA was February 3rd. GA is today.
I have to write it down now.
Today is the day.
Today is GA day. Well, it was yesterday for Andrew.
Well, yeah, for Andrew. This has been one of the hardest parts of being a ServiceNow employee is knowing, like, I knew what IntelliBot did. I knew what RPA was. I knew what was coming down. And I'm like, I can't say anything. Like, I just have to shut up and wait for it.
I don't know how you guys do that. How you guys keep
hard,
a second mind that's private to everybody else.
Well, and
it's not
it
a
gets
second
worse.
mind. It's multiply like worse because you can tell some folks some things and some folks other things. And then the public people even less. And then you got people like me asking like, hey, when's that roadmap coming out?
Yeah, it's really confusing. I was telling my wife this because, our engineers right now and our product managers are thinking, what's going in Utah? Yeah. And the engineers are going, how do I finish up what's going into Tokyo? Yeah. And San Diego came out today, and customers are going, hey, I need to get onto Rome or I'm not on support. Going, that's like 4 or 5 releases in your head, and you're trying to think on the fly going, am I allowed to talk about this? I don't know if I'm allowed to. Safe harbor.
Yeah. Well, it's like the James all the Marvel films, right? Where they're like, oh, wait a minute, they're doing press for them like a year or two after they've wrapped all their production, right? Where you're like, they don't even remember what's going on, and people are like San Diego. I'm like, man, I've been running San Diego, my employee instance, for a few months now. Like, oh, is this? Wait, you guys haven't seen this yet? Like, oh yeah, it's amazing. Like here. Yeah, I don't know, Jace. I don't know.
You got to context switch pretty fast.
Well, yeah, or just don't answer anything directly. That's been my approach.
I mean, is there a group of employees that just don't know anything about what's coming up in ServiceNow and they just work on the current product? Because like that would be like the easiest thing to keep track of.
Jace, I work on Now Learning. Like I shouldn't know half the things that I know, right? Like it's not that it's like this like secret or something. Like we talk about what's coming up, right? We have to build that into a lot of our roadmaps and things like that moving forward. So a lot of times we need to know, and a lot of times we're helping the product team kind of figure out, because it's like, hey, this needs help, or we need help with this, or could you fix that? So
yeah, that's the other that's got to be the tricky part. One of the tricky parts about being a product manager is because you want to work with the customer and say, how's this working? But they're 3 releases behind where you're trying to go. We'll get that in Utah. We won't see that till 2024.
Right.
That's how I feel about stuff coming out in San Diego. Like, that's probably 6 months to a year for where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I mean, where did Jim D probably dropped off at this point? Like, he's now learning product manager. Like,
we are getting more and more people accelerating and going from, I'll skip a release to, because ATF and a lot of this stuff makes it a lot quicker to do your testing and to get the benefit of the next upgrade. So we are seeing that slowly being pulled in. I'm sure
I'm not asking you guys for heads up on it, but with that .walk.io in acquisition, I cannot wait for that stuff to be available.
I want to see that in action too. I have heard so many good things about that.
Yeah, that's that. Oh man, like, you talk about tools that we're just going to like envelop into the platform. I'm like, like, that's a good one.
On my page, I was tracking the mergers and acquisitions. My guess was 2022 Tokyo or store release for .walk.io.
A lot of stuff is going to the store, and it's confusing the hell out of me.
Yeah. Well, I tried to wrap my head around it, and ServiceNow has 600 plus applications on the store that get bi-weekly or monthly updates.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, it makes it really difficult for a customer to manage what's happening.
Well, if you think about it, it makes a lot more sense, because it's like the apps on your phone, where the platform is your operating system, and then AES is just an app. It's a matter of how do you manage that, not just as customers, but internally. We're going, okay, when do we talk about this? When is this coming out in the Q1 release of AES or Q2 release of AES? I can't remember anymore. And how do you build that into, we've got CreatorCon coming. We need some hands-on labs. Am I going to have this next version of AES, or do I got to work with the one that's already out here? Because, San Diego is out. It's been out. I can build content for San Diego, but it's hard to hit those moving targets that are in the store. So I know it's a first world problem.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to keep track of. I did try to wrap my head around it, like I did around the release versions, and I was going to make something to track that stuff, but then 600 plus applications. You're going to
need a freaking RSS feed from the store.
They don't have one, but don't worry, I can make it happen. I did recently, and Chuck, you might know about this. Chuck, are you familiar with PubSub Hubbub?
The first two, yes. I'm familiar with PubSub. Never heard of the Hubbub part.
10 years ago, Google made PubSub Hubbub, and it eventually became the web sub accepted W3C thing.
Okay.
It's just a fun name to say. But it makes RSS feeds a push rather than a pull.
I'm not sure if it sounds like a speech impediment or a head injury.
And other data now.
It's too good of a name for Google not to kill. It's too good of a name.
Google likes to kill things.
Google kills everything.
Google.com is one of my favorite and most hated websites, where I'm like, why? Why did you have to do that? Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to be doing for mail hosting on my personal domains now.
I thought my personal domain went down, and then I realized I think I was paying for it. So
I'm on Fastmail. I can't say anything. It's all good for me out there. So
yeah. Well, gentlemen, I think I'm going to close this down. This
Are you still at 8%?
I don't know. It's still running.
You might have to reboot your node or something. Z-boot the machine.
I mean, is it at least a different status message than it was an hour ago?
Absolutely. It is now. It has loaded 61 of 241 files.
Oh, we only have.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
almost halfway there.
You're up to like 16%. Yeah. Certainly, it's not going to be that slow for all customers.
No. And I mean, honestly, this is a sub-production instance with like probably one node. Like there's
8 meg of RAM.
Yeah, like this is in a mini DB. Like there's no way. Like yeah, come on. This is sputtering because it's completely under provisioned for what I'm probably asking.
Are all PDIs the same size for RAM and that kind of stuff? I've never really thought about it.
Pretty sure they are.
I mean, they're all single threaded, right?
That I don't know
that question, but I can tell you that it would make no sense whatsoever for the data center automation to spin up randomly sized differently. It's like, and you get this one and you get that one.
Well, I mean, maybe initially before they had the sleeping instances, they ran them at a higher capacity or something, or a lower capacity, and then when they're sleeping, they ran them at lower. I don't know. I'm asking questions because I'm curious.
I can tell you that data center automation team at ServiceNow is pretty awesome. Like they've got,
and that's Craig Stepp, right? That runs a bunch of that stuff, Chuck.
No, Craig is just in charge of Cloud Labs.
Oh,
which is similar but not the same thing.
Okay, I did not realize that there was a difference.
There is absolutely, yeah.
Well, I'm glad to know a little behind the curtain.
If you get a machine for training, that's Craig's purview, and knowledge and CreatorCon and all those hands-on labs for that stuff. That's all Craig.
And that is
Craig and his team. I should say his team is.
Yeah, the Cloud Labs training instance team. Those guys are awesome. But yeah, that's a very volatile instance, right? Like you could do what you need to get trained, but we're going to take it back very quickly. Like it's not going to stay around for much longer. But yeah, cool. All right. Well, Jace, we'll do sign-offs, but I want to give everybody a chance to plug something. Jace, you got anything to plug right now? I mean, I know News.Jace just rebuilt, so you're probably taking a vacation. You know?
I mean, I haven't been doing a lot of work with it, but it's not ServiceNow, but I've learned so many things about how you might make something like that in ServiceNow, and like some of the problems that you have by not making it in ServiceNow. CJ and the Duke just asked if I would speak on their podcast about it, because it's like I learned a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything to plug but news.jace.pro. If you want to try to keep on top of stuff, I added an RSS feed for the folks that don't want to go to the site and they want to just get the 125 plus feeds that it aggregates. You can just go to, I think, /index/.rss and it'll give you the last 7 days.
I'm thinking that's going to be a really awesome Feedly URL, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to do Feedly and use that. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, I think you just go to index.rss and it'll make it there for you. If I have the wrong thing, I can share it later. But yeah.
And Chuck, what can we plug for you? For all three of the people that are watching.
That's sad.
Oh,
I don't know. Work or personal? What do you want? I think most of the people that are watching.
This is my personal channel, so
okay.
It could be your personal, it could be your work, it could be whatever you want it to be.
All right. Well, the center of my personal universe is chucktomasi.com. So you can find that. That's going to point you to my YouTube channel and Amazon books and up, down, right, left, center. Probably knock my microphone one more time.
I'm surprised I didn't do it to myself. I've got it up now. I think I've been microphone placement and been studying some people. But yeah, awesome, Chuck. Cool. Well, I appreciate everybody in chat. Thank you so much for reaching out and throwing questions in and being active. Again, Jace, Chuck, thank you so much for being on. And I'm planning to do more of these streams, hopefully once a week. Just Q&As, open forum, talk about whatever, doesn't matter. But I think it's going to be helpful for people to, have some sounding board. It would be fun. So cool. All right.
Thanks for letting me hang out.
Hey, anytime. Anybody wants to come on, ping me. All right. Ready. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.